Hello again, everybody. Zach Attack is here with my WWE Raw review for tonight, Monday, May 13th, 2013. Man, there may be a little ranting tonight because my mind, we have, of course, this is supposed to be the last Raw before Extreme Rules, and like WWE always does, they always like to add last minute matches without any hype, and they've done that a lot tonight. Plus, they even changed the match, proving once and for all, unfortunately, that I think the card on paper, this pay-per-view looks like it could be, and I may get some criticism for saying this, but I think this pay-per-view, this Sunday Extreme Rules, may be the worst pay-per-view since December to December 2006. It's that bad of a pay-per-view. To me, there's a few redeeming points of the pay-per-view, but most of it's just crap. I'll criticize the pay-per-view and my thoughts on it being a crappy pay-per-view this Sunday when I get to feuds that involve matches this Sunday at Extreme Rules. We did see someone return tonight, only to get a pre-show match in the pay-per-view. It was okay. Well, it's not the best. It was like mixed bag in the one tonight, especially if a lot of people are getting injured left and right. And the crowd was okay. I like the sign that said, "Wake me up when the best in the world returns." Ain't that the truth? I like Punk leaving and all, like giving himself a break, but unfortunately, timing wasn't on Punk's side. Because look what's happening. So I'll address everything when we get to him as part of this Raw review, which kicked off with, well, a feud coming into a match which I knew was going to happen in Extreme Rules, Chris Jericho and Fandango. Now, their feud's been stemming for a month since Mania, and Fandango screwed Jericho an opportunity at the pay-per-view for a title opportunity, and now leads to this dance-off tonight, which will lead, and I knew it, to their match this Sunday in Extreme Rules, a rematch for WrestleMania. I'm glad this dance-off was first and not later on in the evening, especially the way it turned out. It was more like a stupid, silly segment to build up towards the match. We began with Fandango coming up with Summer Rae. Fandango's been switching partners faster than AJ. Because Fandango had that brunette chick. Now he's got this blonde-headed chick. This Summer Rae lady has his dance partner tonight. And Jericho brought out Editor Savinska from a pro dance on Dancing with the Stars. At least they brought some legitimacy to this dance-off, even though it ended up not being pretty. Fandango and Jericho had a little bit more words. Of course, Fandango stemming from his last previous dance-off loss against Great Khali. And Jericho's saying, Fandango, you'll never ever be the same again. Now, I've been reading a lot of Facebook things. And I like that Jericho, he's coming back to WWE not to get himself another title shot. He's pushing the younger talent. That is letting his ego aside. Unlike other people like Triple H who want to be on every fucking storyline. Especially with Brock Lesnar, which I'll address that when we get to that portion of the show. So I respect Jericho for coming in to WWE, pushing younger talent and not caring about himself. Not like people like Hulk Hogan who wouldn't let anybody go over him. That's what Jericho's doing to Fandango. Although I did see somebody on Jericho saying Fandango's theme is more relevant than he is. I almost agree, especially with the crowd not doing much Fandangoing tonight. Anywho, back to this supposed dance-off, which would start out with Fandango after the War of Words, but each guy, especially like saying like, I'm going to beat you up Sunday. And Jericho even said, I'm going to make a new dance quiz. As we all over the internet, being on one of iTunes, making fun of Fandango's theme, like I mentioned, being more relevant than he is, saying, my new dance is going to be that I'm going to kick your jackass all over the ring. So, Jericho's still a great talker. Anyway, Fandango tried to dance, and he wouldn't go at first because the crowd was being too loud or whatever, making an excuse. I thought Fandango was going to check himself out of the match, where he kind of did with the fake injury that was sustained by Summer Rae. During the second attempt at the dance, he was attempting to dance, but unfortunately, Summer Rae tripped and apparently hurt her knee until he found out it was a false injury. As Summer Rae was doing a great acting job of selling her supposed ankle injury. Editor checked up on her. Even Jericho did as well. Fandango left, angry with Summer Rae for, at the time, angry at her for ruining his dance, even though, like I said, we would know that injury was a farce to set up Jericho to get his ass whipped by Fandango. As Jericho was checking on Summer Rae, Fandango came back into the ring and beat the crap out of Jericho, waving him outside the ring, weighing him against the steel steps, beating him up all over the ringside area. And then the last straw for Fandango was he took this whole hardwood ballroom dance floor was built on the wall wing. He took one of the floor bricks, should I say, and nailed Jericho with it. So that's how he began the war with Jericho and Fandango's dance-off, not someone helping, kind of being silly, with Fandango having Summer Rae fake an injury to succumb Jericho to check up on her to be prone to a Fandango attack. Later on in the evening, Jericho saying, "No more games. I will be ready this Sunday. I'm not going to let anyone play me like a fiddle. I'm going to come in this Sunday with one goal in mind, to beat the crap out of Fandango. I'm not joking around anymore. I'm not mispronouncing his name for a joke. I know how to pronounce his name. Pronounce my name, bitch." You didn't say bitch, you know what I meant to say. Chris Jericho. So there you go. That's why we begin with a silly dance-off segment that ended up being sillier than I thought it was going to be. Now on to the next matchup. First matchup, should I say. First match of Raw. Goldberg, I'll be right back. Giving Zack Ryder the squash of the week. Typical Zack Ryder squash. I like Ryder and all, but I hate to admit this, but I would not be surprised if we read by the end of the year, we wish Zack Ryder in his future endeavors. So I think Zack Ryder's getting fired soon. His push is over. I like him, but if he doesn't change his character soon, he doesn't get a momentum and stop bitching about things, dude, he's getting fired. He's going to get fired. I guarantee it. That Zack Ryder will be fired this year. If he doesn't change his character, and if things with him and WWE doesn't change either. So there you go. Ryder gets squashed as usual by Ryback. Give himself momentum for his match against Cena this Sunday. Meanwhile, we would see John Cena in action for the first time in 2 weeks, despite his nagging injury. And of course, his match Sunday against Ryback, he would team up with the Team Hell No to take on the Shield in a 6-man elimination matchup. Of course, Kane and D-Bry haven't defended the titles in a while, and they will this Sunday in a match named later on in the evening. But I think they should give a shot to, well, the PTP, Primetime Players. They were in a matchup against, of all people, Tons of Funk. And I thought that Primetime Players were going to get another squash to Tons of Funk. And it seemed that way at first. It's Enzai, a.k.a. Albert, a.k.a. Sweet Tea, a.k.a. Hip Hop Hippo, a.k.a. Prince Albert. What do you want to call him? Down there later having a matchup. Of course, tagging in Borders and really throwing his weight around all over DY, Darren Young. But Titus got in. He started dominating. But indeed, as Borders was going for a big move, wherever he got distracted, Young came in with his comb, nailed Borders with it. His little spike comb for his afro. And Titus rolled him up. 1, 2, 3. Glad to see PTP back on Raw, and PTP getting a victory on Raw. And hopefully this will make PTP, like I said, get a tag team title shot. Another tag team title shot in the future. And get the titles at last. Unless the Shield gets the titles. Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. Anywho, speaking of the Shield, before we get to that match involving not Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, none of the Shield would wrestle. We would see Sando wrestle next against Kofi. But before that match, we have news on the World Heavyweight title situation. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, a match at Extreme Rules. Not only do you have new matches added, which I'll explain as we add as review, especially with Jericho and Fandango being added, there was a change to the card. Now, one of the big matches that I was kind of looking forward to Extreme Rules was a triple threat ladder match for the World Heavyweight title, involving Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger, and Put Up Their Wheel. Because these three guys were all former Money in the Bank winners, and I expected a great ladder match with these guys. Unfortunately, the ladder match has been canceled. Due to Dolph Ziggler's concussion that he received at the hands of Jack Swagger on Thursday on SmackDown that I talked about a little bit in form on my attack line this out today. Dolph Ziggler was losing memory and getting headaches because of that concussion. He got kicked in the head. He didn't remember what happened on Monday or Tuesday. Anywho, Ziggler was not medically cleared. Therefore, Ziggler, I'm surprised they didn't strip Ziggler. They didn't strip Ziggler the title, but they did cancel the ladder match and made the match between Swagger and Alberto now a one-on-one match, and I quit match. Bad decision. I think in my mind, Teddy Long, I don't care. Storyline, I think it should have been. It should have still been a ladder match with the contract hanging up. That's what I was hoping for. Keep the match a ladder match and make it a contract ladder match, kind of like a Money in the Bank, but not a briefcase at the top. Make it a contract, but no, then make it an I Quit match. Now, I Quit matches back in the day were vicious, epic, bloody. You want to see good I Quit matches? Watch JBL and John Cena at Judgment Day 2005. Michael Cole made a botch later on in the evening. He was talking about JBL's I Quit match with Cena. He said, JBL, did you say I quit to Cena at WrestleMania? It was Judgment Day 2005, Michael Cole. Anywho, and of another great bloody, violent I Quit match, Mick Foley, Ric Flair. Now, those bloody I Quit matches are gone. You want proof of what happens when there's no blood and no violence in an I Quit match? Hate to mention this on WWE review, but I mentioned WWE on TNA reviews all the time. Not me to mention TNA in a WWE review. You want to see proof that TVPG I Quit matches are a bad idea? Watch Kurt Angle and D'Lo Brown from 2 weeks ago on Impact. Their I Quit match was uneventful. It was, like I said, even with the I Quit stipulation, the match still sucked. There was no violence, no blood, no use of weapons. And unfortunately, that's what Alberto and Swagger is going to be like this Sunday with no blood and no violence. And we get the rest. Basically, it's like WrestleMania all over again, but in an I Quit match situation. This is why I'm not too thrilled about the pay-per-view now. With so many people getting injured, especially Ziggler, it's turned this pay-per-view upside down. Especially with this announcement that Swagger and Alberto is going to wrestle in the pay-per-view in a ladder match. No longer there'll be a number one contender I Quit match. Like I said, still should have been a ladder match. But that's WWE logic for you. I know WWE had only a week to plan a new match and all, but come on, they could have done better. But knowing WWE, they didn't want to add any excitement. They want to be dull and boring, as we all know. But just as that happened, we got an announcement about a match that the Shield could indeed, it could be the Shield's night in Extreme Rules. Finally going up for titles. Kofi Kingston would wrestle Damien Sandow. And before that, we found out, like I said, many matches for Extreme Rules were added and changed. Match added. Kofi Kingston taking on Dean Ambrose on the Shield for the United States Championship. That's a good move on WWE's part. Probably one of the only saving graces of the pay-per-view. Especially after finding out that there will no longer be a ladder match, an I Quit match now for number one contendership. And Ziggler's not stripped, as we know of. He's going to fight the winner of the Alberto Swagger match. Now we get make up. I think he's trying to make up for the shitty ladder match. Shitty I Quit match now with Kofi and Ambrose. Well, that should be a decent matchup though. But we have Kofi Kingston taking on Damien Sandow. He didn't sing again tonight, but it was an okay matchup. A little short but sweet, but a decent matchup. Sandow had control early on. It looked like Sandow was gonna pin the United States champion and maybe get himself a title shot down the road if Kofi retains over Mr. Ambrose this Sunday. He even delivered an elbow disdain at one point. And indeed, Kofi came flying back. He connected with the moved up after his big clotheslines. He did attempt Trouble in Paradise, but he misses. And Damien came back with his freaking neckbreaker with a 2-count attempt. But then Kofi Kingston, out of nowhere, did nail the Trouble in Paradise on Sandow. And it was 2-3 victory for Kofi Kingston, gaining momentum for his matchup now against Dean Ambrose for the United States Championship this Sunday. I know it's not been a lot of hype, mostly built around what happened last week when Kofi lost to the Shield last week in a 6-man tag with him teaming up with the Usos. So there you go. Ambrose Kofi this Sunday, but Kofi defeats Sandown tonight. Now on our next segment involving Mark Henry calling out Sheamus. Now, as I fully predicted on last week's Raw review, my Raw review last week, Mark Henry and Sheamus will, yes, be a strap match. Saw that coming after Mark Henry used the belt on Sheamus. Now, another match that JBL was involved in besides the Night Crit match, JBL was involved in a kind of a Texas Bulldog match, kind of a strap match. Of course, a strap match means that two men are connected to each other. You have to drag your opponent to the turnbuckles, all four turnbuckles, and touch them to win the match. Now, it's going to be kind of tough for Sheamus in the storyline-wise because Mark Henry's such a big guy. So it's going to be very somewhat tough for Sheamus to lift Mark Henry all the way around the ring. But hey, if Sting could do it against Big Van Vader back at Super Bowl 1993, although Sting did lose that match, but Sting did end up dragging Van Vader around. If Sting can drag Van Vader in a strap match and almost win the match, Sheamus could have a chance pulling Mark Henry in the strap. So Mark Henry came up with the strap, talking about the match, and the match was really okay. It's going to be a little bit unexciting because it's Mark Henry and all sexual chocolate. Anywho, Henry showed clips of him beating up Sheamus last week with the belt after Sheamus beat up on Wade Barrett, the IC champion. And then he showed himself pulling trucks. Do you think that was real? Or was someone pulling the trucks behind the trucks to show that Henry was really doing it instead of someone else helping him? Like backstage. Anywho, that's another story for another day. Anywho, Mark Henry showed the clips where he's like, instead of telling you what the strap match is going to be like, he was interviewed in the ring by Josh Matthews. Basically, an honor of a sacrificial lamb when he was shown to demonstrate the power of the strap matches. Mark Henry put the strap around Josh Matthews and dragged his ass across the ring to all four turnbuckles the same way he'll do to Sheamus in his mind this Sunday. And then he called out Sheamus. Say, why do you want to wait till Sunday? Come out now. So Sheamus came out saying, Mark Henry, I'd like to beat you up now, but wait until Sunday. But then he's like, hey, I forgot something. I left something for you. He pulled out his old strap from underneath the ring. So he used that old strap to strap the hair of Mark Henry out of the ring. So there you go. Sheamus standing tall, whipping Mark Henry like he did to him last week. Leading towards their strap match this Sunday at Extreme Rules. Speaking of matches at Extreme Rules, our next match involving Randy Orton taking on Antonio Cesaro. Now I know that Big Show and Orton has the feud, and I knew they were going to add a match at Extreme Rules. And I predicted last week that if they would have a stipulation for Mark Henry, not Mark Henry, but for Big Show and Randy Orton, I thought it would be like a chairs match or something. But they're making it a full-on Extreme Rules match. Basically, in other words, a street fight. Anything goes. No DQ, just anything goes. It shouldn't be called an Extreme Rules match. It'll just be an anything goes match. No holds barred. Maybe not no holds barred, but you know what I mean? Anything goes. It's an anything goes match between Mark Henry and Randy Orton and Big Show Sunday. And now Randy Orton and Big Show's got more in common. Now, they've been in WWE shitty WWE movies. Especially Orton seeing the trailer for his new made-to-video film, 12 Rounds 2. Replacing Cena in that movie. The original was Cena, 12 Rounds. You didn't see it? Neither did I or the entire world. And neither will we watch this Orton movie or that Borders Clay movie, No One Lives. But the call and Dead Man Down was successful. Anywho, Orton took on Cesaro as kind of a rematch from their match at the main event on Wednesday. And Cesaro did try his best to fight Randy Orton and showed him off. And dominated with his big, hard-brawling style, who I think should get a big push now with all these main event guys. Don't push new guys, especially this Cesaro dude. And once again, Cesaro gets squashed by a guy who should be fighting somebody else. Anywho, Orton tried fighting back with his own belly and his power slam and led towards his 3 moves of doom, the middle rope hangman DDT, and of course, the RKO 1, 2, 3 victory for Randy Orton. And So they go, Orton wins match against us all. I thought Big Show was going to attack him, but Big Show must be somewhere. So there you go. Radio and Big Show Sunday, Extreme Rules in a anything goes match, Extreme Rules match, whatever you want to call it. And Randy wins over all. Now on to our next match. We involved Heath Slater taking on a man who I thought was going to return last week, but he came back this week. The Miz is back, especially when WWE needs him the most to hype up the main event card. Unfortunately, he's no longer a main event guy. Once again, he's fighting on a pre-show. Was he in the pre-show of Extreme Rules last year? He was also in the pre-show of WrestleMania. And now he's once again going to be on the pre-show of Extreme Rules, taking on Randy Orton's former legacy partner, Cody Rhodes. God, I feel bad for Miz, kind of. I like Miz. He's not the best wrestler in the world, but he's a good performer. Decent performer. But now he's kind of shoving him aside. You know, you gave him a pre-show match in Mania, win that match in Mania, lose the next night against Wade Barrett, then go off for a month, now come back and fight in the pre-show. Again, Extreme Rules. I think Miz, like I said, I think last year when they did the first ever pre-show, Miz was it. Now he's on the pre-show again with Cody. Anywho, Miz took on Heath Slater, and Miz looked very good in his match back. You know, he did all his big moves, you know, and Slater did have some offense in. You know, Slater did try to gain advantage, but indeed, like every other match of Slater in his job squad, I mean the 3MB, Heath Slater got beat up and even got tossed onto Drew and Jinder. And Miz delivered all his big moves, and he did attempt the figure 4 once, but Slater countered out of that. But after Miz took out all 3 members of the 3MB, like both members at ringside, he had Slater off to himself, which led towards the figure 4 leg lock attempt again. Miz got the win, making Slater tap out. And Miz gets a victory, heading towards momentum for his match against Cody, with no hype whatsoever and no purpose at all for Extreme Rules this Sunday. Should be a decent matchup, but there's 2 athletic guys, but still, not a lot of build-up. It's like, what's the purpose? Especially, like I said, with Miz coming back and all. He made him come back after a month of taping. Now he's fucking on a pre-show again. Especially after being a pre-show of Mania as well. Alright, now on to a match. I thought it was going to be the main event, but I kind of knew that since Triple H and Lesnar, their little face-off was going to be the last segment. I forgot to mention in my top 5 questions today. Forgot to mention that. So, anyway, we had a 6-man tag elimination. John Cena, despite the match and injury, teamed up with Team Hell No against The Shield. Now, I told you Ambrose is taking on Kofi for the title, U.S. title this Sunday. It was also made that Bryan and Kane will finally defend their tag team titles for the first time in God knows when. We haven't seen them defend the titles in a while. So I'm glad they're defending the titles against the 2 other members of The Shield, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. And if you saw my review last week, I was kind of like saying that it's just me of all the Shield matches ended the same. Like they've been the same beginning, the same middle, the same ending. It was not the typical squash match, typical Shield match. And it was kind of different. Especially since it was a 6-man elimination match. So it was actually pretty decent. But anyway, I'm glad that Cena didn't get in that much, especially with his injury and all. So we begin with the usual. It was almost a typical Shield match, but still, the ending was kind of weird. But anyway, Bryan and Kane were tagging each other in and out, dominating over the Shield in the early half of the matchup. But indeed, just like that, the Shield gets back control, dominating all over Bryan. With some great triple teaming and quick tags in and out once again. Whereas Bryan was getting dominated by the Shield in the corner. Bryan gets the hot tag to Kane. And unfortunately, Kane's frustrations with the Shield, especially with him being attacked by the Shield a lot, and what they did to his brother, The Undertaker, storyline-wise, by powerbombing him through a table. Kane was on a rampage. His anger, his tantrum, got the best of him. And his emotions got the best of him as Kane was just dominant all over the Shield. He even beat him up outside the ring, blaming him against the ring post. He was just in an angry way. It just couldn't not be diminished. He was just beating everybody all over, sending him to the outside. And Kane kind of got counted out or DQ'd, whatever you want to say, because Kane used a wall, the wall announcer sign. I knew that Kane was going to get counted out at that point, and he kind of did. So it was left 2 against 3. Rollins and Ambrose and Reigns against Cena and D-Bry. And then Cena got the tag in and got dominated over the woman Reigns, especially in the WWE app. They were pushing a lot for. I kind of like the WWE app. I kind of dig it, but I know a lot of people don't like it because it's like WWE's attempt in social media. I think everyone's getting sick of WWE's social media push. At least they were promoting town again. At least that stopped, but they're still promoting Twitter, as we saw throughout the evening. Anywho, so Cena got in and got dominated by Reigns. He would try the big 5 moves of Doom it first, later on in the matchup, but then as Cena was, of course, dominant on Roman Reigns, he was in a sleeper position, and he climbed all the way from one corner to the other with Roman Reigns on his back, got the hot tag to D-Bry, and D-Bry came in like a fury. He came in like a house of fire. He did like a big series of moves, whipping everybody in a frenzy. There was a big fly moves, and even doing a big top rope move on the Seth Rollins. And then Ambrose broke up the count. And Ambrose nailed D-Bry with his finisher. 1, 2, 3. D-Bry was out. That means basically 3-on-1. Cena against the Shield. I kind of feel that. I feel that at one point it was going to be 3-on-1 because, of course, the Shield has not been pinned in a match. Well, it kind of changed, but they didn't exactly lose the match, as we would see later on. As Cena, the only guy left, he did try to deliver his 5 moves of doom. At one point, did deliver the 5 knuckle shuffle, and he indeed FU'd Roman Reigns at one point. He did get the FU on Roman Reigns. He got the pin. 1, 2, 3 on Reigns. That means it's 2-on-1. And Cena was going to beat the odds. Hell, Cena beat the Nexus by himself in a elimination tag once at SummerSlam 2010. But anywho, Cena, as he was about to deliver another FU, this time to Seth Rollins, we actually did FU Seth Rollins. And he did FU Rollins with a 1, 2, 3 victory. It was now 1-on-1. Ambrose against Cena. Woman did not. I kind of made a mistake. I fought it a little bit. I forgot Roman Reigns didn't get eliminated by being FU'd. Rollins got eliminated by being FU'd, but then after Rollins got FU'd, Cena's about to FU Ambrose. But then as Cena's about to FU Ambrose, Seth Rollins was laid out still. Roman Reigns, despite being blocked by referee, pushed the referee out of the way, speared Cena, then he got DQ'd. Then making it 1-on-1, Cena against Ambrose. With Roman Reigns DQ'd and Rollins FU'd out of the match. Cena was about to finally, like I said, beat the odds and did have the STFU attached to Ambrose. And Cena Ambrose was going to tap out and get the Shield's first big loss. The other members of the Shield, Reigns and Rollins, came in to attack Cena, causing a DQ. So Cena and Team Hell No won by DQ. They won the match, but like I said, by DQ. So Shield is technically still undefeated because even though he got pinned during the match and DQ'd at one point, they didn't actually get pinned for a losing fall. So, like I said, technically, they're still undefeated. I will not be surprised if they say it again, that they are undefeated. And then with Cena getting triple powerbomb by the Shield yet again. And as Cena was laid out, I kind of expected this as well. Ryback came out. And Cena Ryback was just observing the situation, looking at Cena's poor body. But then Ryback left the ring, but then he came back with a steel chair. And he nailed the chair onto Cena's injured Achilles tendon. Like I mentioned last week, Cena got injured before a last man standing match before No Mercy 07 and getting out of the match and being stripped of the title a week before the pay-per-view. Could it happen again? Could this injury now be too lingering for Cena to defend the title? Now that Ziggler's out, Cena may be out too, but I doubt it that Cena will fight through this injury. He fought pretty well. He did look pretty good in the matchup for the time he had. You know, it did seem that his ankle was somewhat healed and his tendon healed, but now that Ryback kind of weakened the ankle more by nailing a chair with it. So there you go. See how Cena's tendon acts up Sunday. Ryback rules. That's kind of a weird saying. He did it last week, but it's a weird thing. You got Hogan rules, and they got Ryback rules. I bet you there will be a Ryback rules shirt. And I bet you he will debut it Sunday if they make the shirt on time. Anywho, now on to the next matchup, which was a WWE Active fan poll. Now, I forgot to mention this during the segment when Teddy Long made the match between Alberto and Swagger. Now a number one contender I quit match after Ziggler's injury. Teddy Long said that Big E Langston would be in action tonight, taking on either Swagger or Alberto. And the fans voted Jack Swagger. I voted for Swagger because I wanted Swagger to get his ass beat for revenge for injuring Ziggler. And that's what everyone else wanted Swagger in the match, whether it was fixed voting or not. But I did vote for Swagger, really. Swagger and Big E was indeed the match that was next. And Big E did throw his weight around in the matchup and looked like he was going to dominate all over Mr. Swagger. But indeed, I'm surprised that Colton didn't get involved, but he did kind of like get in AJ's face a little bit, kind of. But anyway, as Swagger did fight back, and Swagger was kind of PO'd that this Raw was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. In the beginning, they were booing Swagger, but I did hear some Swagger chants near the end of the matchup, trying to get the crowd back in it. But after Big E trying to get control back and throw his weight around again, Swagger got back in it and delivered his big moves. He did hit the Swagger bomb, his gut-wrench power bomb, and he did have the ankle lock, the Patriot Act, the Patriot lock, whatever you want to call it, locked in on Mr. Langston. But Langston made it to the ropes. And of course, Big E threw Swagger to the outside, and they fought outside the ring. But unfortunately, Big E Langston did not make it because they were being counted at the time when Swagger and Big E was fighting outside the ring. Big E didn't make the count of 10. Swagger wins by count out. At that moment, here comes Alberto Del Rio. Way to beat up all over Swagger to get up, to try to hype up the match, which is no longer a triple threat ladder match, but an I Quit match this Sunday, as I mentioned on the beginning of this review. Big E got involved by beating up Swagger and Alberto, but then Alberto got a big kick on Big E Langston. Before that, Swagger and Alberto both did the moves. Swagger had the Patriot lock at one point, and then Alberto caught out to make it a croissant breaker. But indeed, Swagger was clotheslined outside the ring with Alberto standing tall. Of course, we'll see what happens this Sunday in our I Quit match. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm not looking forward to this I Quit match, especially since TV PG I Quit matches are not exciting and no violence, and no blood, and no weapons. Maybe that'll change, but I doubt it. On our next match, AJ Lee against Natalya, with the Divas at ringside, Bella Twins. Do you think the Bella Twins set up this whole Secret Admirer thing? That's what many people are speculating, including myself, that this whole Secret Admirer thing on Caitlyn is a ploy from the Bella Twins. Anywho, it was a typical Divas match. AJ got the victory, but the coolest thing about this match, the only significant thing in this match was that killer-ass submission by AJ. We make fun of the Divas today for not being athletic. That submission move, that Black Widow submission move by AJ was pretty badass. And it's hard to say that about the Divas these days, but that was a cool submission, though. That's probably the only noticeable thing about the matchup, that badass submission from AJ making Natalya tap out as Caitlyn watched on. Now, on with our last segment, which involved Triple H against Brock Lesnar in a face-off. I knew they were going to end Raw, especially after seeing Cena not being the main event. And I'm surprised they didn't make Caitlyn and AJ official tonight. Maybe Friday. Or maybe the match won't be at the pay-per-view. Making it, like, why make a pay-per-view shitty already? That's shitty already, make it shittier by adding a Divas match. So don't add a Divas match. Especially this pay-per-view, in my mind, it's not the best. Besides the Shields matches. And like I mentioned before, this Triple H Brock Lesnar match, everyone's like, I went on Facebook tonight, Oh, I'm looking forward to Triple H and Brock Lesnar. I'm not. As I said before, it doesn't matter what stipulation you put Brock Lesnar and Triple H in. Steel cage match. And you saw that in Mania. Even a no holds barred match. Even with that stipulation, the match still sucked. And they were trying to hype it up as much as they could with Triple H talking to Lesnar and telling him to come on out as they were about to have the big face-off. With Triple H lowering down the steel cage. And Triple H using the word hate. A word you don't hear now in TVPG WWE, which Paul Heyman acknowledged by saying Triple H were not allowed to use words like hate. But I'm going to make you know that you're going to hate stepping up to your father and hate facing up to everybody when you get your ass beat by Brock Lesnar, the Beast Incarnate, in that steel cage this Sunday. That he's a good guy. Not a good guy, but a madman who likes to beat up people in the cage. Former UFC heavyweight champion, as we all know. And indeed, Paul Heyman's like, Brock Lesnar wants to fight you now, Triple H. He wants to fight tonight, but he doesn't fight for free. But the Triple H is like, Heyman, you're the reason why Lesnar's not in there. Lesnar should ignore you. Should not be chained to your power of telling him what to do. And come in his ring and face me like a man. So Brock Lesnar, are you going to come out and prove that you're the beast? Or to prove that you're just a bitch by standing up at the ringside area? That word bitch triggered Brock Lesnar to leave the ringside area, to walk down the ramp, should I say. And despite Paul Heyman telling him no, and a lot of referees separating him from the cage, slowly but surely, I thought Lesnar was going to step in the cage, then step out like a bitch. But Brock Lesnar did step in the cage and did have an impromptu brawl against Triple H. And I was like, oh my god. And despite my hatred for this match, I'm like, this pay-per-view is going down the drain quickly with people getting injured. I hope Triple H and Brock Lesnar play it safe and no one gets injured. And lose another match at Extreme Rules because we lost Swagger and Alberto and Ziggler. We may lose Triple H and Lesnar too. The only other match people are looking forward to besides me, like I mentioned. Anyway, Lesnar and Triple H had a little war going on. They beat each other against the cage and try to hype up the match. But I hope this match is as good as the beatdown, not shitty like Mania. As Triple H and Lesnar got on, like Triple H was dominant most of the brawl. Ended up tossing Lesnar against the cage, whamming him against the door, tossing him out of the cage, whamming the door into Heyman. And with Lesnar tossed out of the ring, Lesnar walked out with Paul Heyman after getting beat up by Triple H. So Triple H stood tall and wall, tossing Brock Lesnar outside the cage, giving himself more momentum for the match at Mania. Not Mania, but Extreme Rules. It's a feud with anything. Seriously, why is this feud even happening in my mind? I never really thought of that before. That this feud means nothing. That there's no higher purpose. Like Brock Lesnar is not. It's like a lose-lose situation because Triple H. What is he fighting for? Nothing. He's a part-timer. He doesn't need to fight for another championship. Lesnar should be fighting people like Orton and Sheamus who are directionless right now. Instead of them wrestling people like Mark Henry and Big Show, one of them should fight Lesnar. But no, Lesnar's being put against Triple H, a feud that will have no end result. So there you go. Lesnar Triple H, the feud continues on for this Sunday. That is it for my Raw review. Kind of a mixed bag tonight. Miz returns. Matches made for Extreme Rules and changed. So there you go. That is it. Like I said, that is it for my Raw review tonight. Thank you all very much for watching. I ranted a little, but not as much as I thought I was going to rant. But I still ranted nonetheless. With that in mind, you've been all been attacked. But a review from Zach. I think this is my longest review I've ever made. See you all later. Thank you again for watching this very long Raw review. Like I said, my longest review ever for Raw. Apologize for that. Had a lot to say, as you heard and saw. See you later, yeah.